Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this lesson. Today I am going to discuss Merchant of Venice, Act 2, Scene 9, written by William Shakespeare, which takes place at Belmont, a room in Portia's house. So here I begin. And before that, let me ask you, have you subscribed to my channel? If you haven't, then please do and watch the video till end. So, now let us start Act 2 Scene 9. Act 2 Scene 9 is important because it is the second casket scene. The first casket scene was Act 2 Scene 7, where the Prince of Morocco makes his choice and he chooses the wrong casket, which was the gold one. Now the Prince of Aragon, he will come. He is very proud of his mental faculties. He thinks he is very intelligent and he considers the common people and thinks about them in a very low manner. But ultimately, with all his intelligence and everything, he chooses the wrong casket. Whereas Morocco was very proud of his physical prize. So let us proceed. Belmont, a hall in Portia's house. Enter Nerissa with a servant. Nerissa, quick, up pray thee. Down, draw the curtain straight. The Prince of Aragon had taken his oath and comes to his election presently. So why is Nerissa in such a haste? Because the Prince of Aragon has already taken his oath and he will come soon to make his choice, to select the casket. So that is why the curtains have to be drawn aside. I had already told you in Act 2 Scene 7 that 3 caskets are in a room and a curtain is drawn in front of them, so they are not made visible unless someone comes to choose it. When the suitors come to choose it, the curtains are drawn and the caskets are made visible. Flourish of cornets, enter the Prince of Aragon with his attendant and Portia. Behold, there stand the caskets, noble prince. If you choose that wherein I am contained, straight shall our nuptial rites be solemnized. But if you fail, without mere speech, my lord, you must be gone from hence immediately. So Portia shows the 3 caskets. Behold means see. She shows him the 3 caskets and says, noble prince, there are the 3 caskets. If you choose where I am contained, means where my portrait is there, then straight or immediately we will get married. But if you choose the wrong casket, then without any further talk, you will have to leave Belmont and go away. Aragon, I am enjoined by my oath to observe three things. First, never to unfold to anyone while casket it was I choose. Next, if I fail on the right casket, never in my life to woo a maid in a way of marriage. And lastly, if I do fail in fortune of my choice, immediately to leave you and be gone. So, these are the conditions. Firstly, I must never disclose to anyone which casket I choose. Secondly, if I lose, I will never marry in my life. And thirdly, if I fail in the choice, I will at once leave you and depart. So, which one of the 3 do you think is the most difficult? Well, if I fail, I will not tell anyone. Yeah, that is very logic. If I have failed, why should I tell others and help them to get Portia? I will not stay. Third one, if I fail in my fortune, what is the use of my staying here? Yeah, that is also okay, fine. But The second one is the most difficult one, that if I fail to choose the right casket, then I will never propose to any other lady by way of marriage. That means I have to remain a bachelor throughout my life, and I think this is the most difficult condition. Why don't get Portia? Why don't get Portia? And neither do you get a wife? So, unless people are really serious about Portia, they would think, oh, Portia is a rich. So, there are many other such rich princes. She is beautiful. So, there are others also. So, why should I risk my marriage life for her sake? So, that is why, if you remember all the suitors who had come, the 6 suitors they had left. So only those who are genuinely serious and sincere, they will come to choose the Prince of Morocco and now the Prince of Aragon. Portia. To these injunctions, everyone doth swear that comes to hazard for my worthless self. So everyone who comes to select the casket has to observe these conditions. Aragon. And so have I addressed me, and so I have prepared myself. Fortune now to be my heart's hope. So he wishes that Fortune may favor and fulfill the hopes of his heart. Gold, silver, and base lead. Who chooseth me must give an hazard all heart. So he starts from the lead to silver to gold. You shall look fairer, I give, and or hazard. So he says, lead is a blunt metal. It's not bright also, it is dull. So when he looks at the lead casket, he says, you will have to look better before I go to risk everything for myself, because the inscription which is written on the lead casket is very frightening. So then he goes to the gold casket. What says the golden chest? Let me see. Who chooseth me shall gain what many men desires. What many men desire? That many may be meant by the full multitude that chooseth by show, not learning more than the fond eye doth teach, which prize not to the interior, but like the martel builds in the weather, in the outward wall, then in the force and road of casualty. I will not choose what many men desire, because I will not jump with common spirits and rank me with the barbarous multitude. So first he rejects the lead casket, and then he turns his attention towards the golden casket, and he has a very high opinion of himself. So when he reads the line, what many men desires, he says, by many we may think of the common foolish people who choose by outward appearance, and they only choose what their eyes show them. They don't penetrate deep inside a thing and choose. So they just choose a thing by its surface value. So he compares these common people to the martlet. Martlet is a small bird, so it is known for building its nest on the outer portion of the building, and as such, nests are open to dangers of storm and bad weather. So exposed to bad weather and also the risk of accidents, so he says that the common people are like this. They just go by the face value or the surface value of a thing. They don't penetrate deep into the thing and choose that. They just teach what their eyes just show them. I'm not going to join the bad wagon of the common people, and I won't be in the same platform as them. So that is why he rejects the golden casket, and now he turns his attention towards the silver casket. Why then to thee, thou silver treasure house? Tell me once more what title thou dost bear. So tell me once more what inscription is written on you. Who chooseth me shall get as much as he deserves, and well said too. So he appreciates the inscription. For who shall go about to cozen fortune and be honorable without a stamp of merit? Let none presume to wear an undeserved dignity. So the silver treasure or inscription impresses him. So he says, yes, it is very good, but because no one should go and try to cheat fortune and become honorable if he doesn't have any merit. Let none presume to wear an undeserved dignity. He doesn't want that any man should aspire to get a dignity which he doesn't deserve. Means, suppose you are deserving 50% and you aspire for 90%, that he doesn't want this. Oh, that state, degrees, and offices were not deserved corruptly, and that clear honor were purchased by the merit of the user. So, this is the lamentation. He is lamenting the fact he wishes that property, high positions, they should not be obtained dishonestly, and pure honor so only go to the deserving man. That means only a deserving man should be given a pure honor who obtains it from his heart and from his merit. How many then should cover that stand bare? How many be commanded that command? So in that case, those people who are now standing with their heads bare would be having their heads covered. So what does this mean? Actually, when you stand in front of your superior, you are not supposed to put on your hat. But when you are standing in front of someone who is low in position, then you have the hat on your head. So those people who are standing with their head bare, if truly meritorious people were given the honor, many of them would have hats on their head. And those people who are now being commanded, they would command. That means they would be in a higher position. And many of them who are in higher position without deserving it, they would be commanded. How much low peasantry would then be gleaned from the true seed of honor? That means how many who belong to the low caste would be separated from the rank of the truly honorable. That means among the truly honorable, there is quite a few who doesn't deserve to be honored. So, they will be separated from the truly honored people. And how much honor picked from the chaff and ruin of the times to be vanished, and from the rubbish heap, if any, will be picked up and given new honorable post. Means many of them who deserves honor, but they have discarded and thrown away, like in the chaff also there are grains of corn, so they are like that, thrown in the rubble, and from there you pick them up, the truly meritorious people, and varnish them with new and honorable dignities. But to my choice. So how? Let me go back to my choice. Who chooseth me shall get as much as he deserves. I will assume desert, so I will go for deservings. Give me a key for this, and instantly unlock my fortune here. So he decides to select the silver casket, and so he asks for the key and opens it. And after opening it, he had been very confident that he will find Portia's portrait there. But when he opens it, then what does he find? He finds he finds and is dumb. He is too shocked. Portia. Too long a pause for that which you find there? So Portia knows what is inside and she is quite amused and she is asking him, what you are waiting too long for someone who has really found something good? Arrogant. What's here? The portrait of a blinking idiot presenting me a schedule. I will read it. So he is presented with the portrait of a Google-eyed fool. A fool, or a picture of a fool with his eyes as if protruding, a laughing fool. So he is shocked by seeing the face of a fool presenting him a schedule. So presenting me a scroll of paper. Then he looked at the picture and said, I will read it. How much unlike art thou? The portrait means, how different are you from Portia? How much unlike my hopes and my deservings? So, how very different you are from what I have hoped and I had deserved. Who chooseth me shall have as much as he deserved. Did I deserve no more than a fool's head? So, is this I deserve just a fool's head? Don't I deserve anything more? Is that my prize? Are my deserts no better? So don't I deserve anything more than this fool's head? So he is really shattered. Portia. To offend and judge are distinct offices and of opposed natures. So a person who offends and a person who judges are two different people. The same person cannot be the offender and the judge. For example, suppose you are taking part in some competition, say some reality shows. If you are the participant, you cannot be a judge. Someone else will be the judge for you. You cannot judge your own performance. Arrogant. What is here? And then he reads the scroll. The fire 7 times tried this, 7 times tried that judgment is, that did never choose amiss. Some there be that shadows kiss, such have but a shadow's bliss. There be fool alive, with silvered over, and so was this. Take what wife you will be to bed. I will ever be your head, so be gone. You are sped. So this was the scroll. So after reading it, what does he say? Still more fool I shall appear. By the time I linger here, with one fool's head I come to woo, but I go away with two. Sweet adieu, I'll keep my oath patiently to bear my wrath. So when he reads the scroll, the fire 7 times tried this. So this was tested 7 times by fire. That is, silver is tested 7 times by fire. And similarly, if some judgment is tested 7 times, then it never goes wrong. So, some people, they have a fondness for shadow. Shadows are not real. So some people run after the shadows. So their happiness is also shadowy. They don't get the real happiness. Shadows are unreal. So those who run after the shadow, their happiness is also not real. So there are some foolish people who have silvery hair on their head. We always say that silver hair is a sign of experience. But if a people is born idiot, when he grows old because of his silver hair, he won't become wise. So there are some fools who have the silver hair of the old age. not of the silver hair of wisdom. So this casket, it had the coverings of silver, but inside was the head of a fool. So it does not matter which wife you will take, this fool head will always follow you. So go away. Your quest for Portia is over. Your quest for Portia is over. Actually, this is ironical because he's not supposed to have any wife if he fails to choose a casket. So the Prince of Aragon is shattered man. Very disappointing. So he says that the more I stay, that is, if I stay here anymore, I will look more of a fool. I came here to court Portia with one fool's head, now my shoulder, but I am going away with two. That is, as if it is a dowry of a second hell. Farewell, sweet adieu, Portia. I shall go away and bear my disappointments and sufferings impatiently. So he leaves away Portia. Thus hath the candle singered the mote. Oh, these deliberate fools, when they do choose, they have the wisdom by their wit to lose. So Portia is quite amused. So she says that another moth has come here near the candle and burnt it. You know, moth have a tendency to come near something near which is burning, especially when a candle is burning. The moths have a tendency to come close to it as they are attracted by the light, and then they get burnt. So this suitor of Portia is also like a moth who has burnt itself. So Portia calls them as a calculating fools. So when they choose, after such calculations, they are only wise. They are only wise enough to make a wrong choice. Nereza. The ancient saying is no hearsay, hanging and vibing goes by destiny. So Nereza says that the old proverb is not wrong, which says that your death and your marriage, here hanging means death and viving means getting married. That is, getting a wife, they are in the hands of your fate and you have no control over them. Portia. Come, draw the curtain, Nereza. Enter a servant. The servant says, This, where is my lady? Portia. Here, what about my lord? Portia is in a very light mood. Another suitor, she is got rid of him. This is not the suitor whom she would really want as a husband. So she is happy to get rid of him. She is happy that she has made the wrong choice. So she is in a very light mood. So she says here, what should be my lord? So she is calling her husband my lord. She is calling her servant as my lord. Servant. Madam, there is alighted at your gate a young Venetian, one that comes before to signify the approaching of his lord. So, madam, at your gate a young Venetian has come. A messenger has come to announce the arrival of his lord. His lord is about to come, from whom he bringeth sensible regrets, to wit, besides commands and courteous breath, gifts of such value. This messenger, he brings a lot of courtesy, very valuable gifts and salutations and polite messages from his lord. Yet I have not seen so likely an ambassador of love. So up till now, I have never seen such a promising messenger. Ambassador of love means messenger. A day in April never comes so sweet to show how costly summer was at hand, as this forespur comes before his lord. So April comes before summer. April is the spring season. So if the spring season is good, then the summer will be better. So, if I have never seen an April come so sweet to show how costly summer was at hand, well, a day in April never started so sweetly, showing that a very pleased summer is on its way. As this messenger has come before his Lord, so if the messenger is so promising, then how promising and how nice would his masters be? Portia, no more, I pray thee. So I request you, don't proceed any more. I am half afeared, though wit say anon. He is some king to thee, thou spendest such high day wit in praising him. Come, come, Nerissa, for I long to see quick Cupid's post that comes so mannerly. So Portia says, please don't speak any more. I just request you. I am afraid you will say he is in the same relation because you are using such nice words to praise him. You are praising him, his intelligence. You are using his intelligent words to praise him. I am sure you will say he is some relative of yours. Nerissa, I want to see this messenger of quick Cupid's post, the message of Cupid. Cupid is the prince of love. I am very dying. I am really longing to see this messenger of Cupid. So, who has come in such a fine manner, Nerissa? Bassanio, Lord Love, if they will it be. So, Nerissa from the heart of heart wishes that this Lord who is supposed to arrive, whose arrival the messenger has come, the news of whose arrival the messenger has come with, so she just wishes that the Lord who is coming from Venice may be Lord Bassanio, if that is your will. So saying that, Portia and Nerissa, they leave, and with this we come to an end of Act 2, Scene 9. In Act 2, there are 9 scenes, and this is the biggest act. Act 1 has 3 scenes, Act 3 has 5, Act 4 has only 2 scenes, and Act 5 is the smallest one. It has only 1 scene. So we finish with the second casket scene, and a difficult one. Though the speech of Aragon is difficult, but the rest is easy to understand. So, dear children, with these words I end my lesson. Watch the video till end. Do like, share with your friends so that they are also benefited. Hope this lesson will be beneficial for you in your study. Thank you.